Hello, I'm John Rossi, a touring drummer with the love of all things animal. When I'm on the road, I visit as many zoos, aquariums... Hey, wait a minute. What's going on? Hey, what's going on there? Hello? Hello? We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you Rossifari Zoo news. News you can use from the world of zoos and conservation. Every week, we bring you breaking news and analysis from around the globe, featuring the animals you love and the people who care for them. And here's your anchorman, John Rossi.
Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome back to Rossifari Zoo News, your look at everything going on in the world of zoos, aquariums, conservation, and general animal weirdness. So, y'all, before we get to the news, we got a couple things to talk about. And the first one's a pretty big deal. So I don't know if you had a chance to see my recent story about this on socials. But y'all, we're trying something. We're going to try to put the safari in Rossifari. That's right, y'all. From November 4th to the 11th this year, I have been invited to have y'all join me on a sea turtle conservation trip in Ecuador. Now, again, I need to stress this. I mentioned this on my post, but this will only happen if we get enough people into our WhatsApp group. So I will have links up in my stories again. And I ask that if you're even slightly interested in doing this, that you sign up for the WhatsApp group. Only 10 people can come. That's the max number of travelers. And so I'm hoping once this goes live that the tickets will go quickly. So I'll have a link up for that in my stories and also in the show notes for this. But the plan is we'll be flying into Quito, Ecuador, staying at Puerto Tortuga, which will have 3 home-cooked meals a day, helping protect turtle nesting beaches, monitoring nests, and depending on what's going on at the time, possibly even getting to see sea turtle hatchlings reaching the ocean. Also be doing things like planting trees and get to enjoy some things like bird watching, a chocolate workshop, and more. So there's a lot of really cool opportunities here, and it's not going to be too expensive. I've seen a lot of these conservation travel trips that sit at $4,000 or $5,000, and I don't have a final number quite yet, but it's not going to be near that. I promise you that. So I'm really excited about this, and I hope y'all are too. This is a chance to go and do some in situ conservation work with an organization that is known for doing good work and even more importantly, doing it with me and with, animals I love. So if that is something that you might be interested in, please sign up for the WhatsApp group and let's get the conversation going. And then that's not the only big thing I'm working on. I keep teasing y'all about a big thing I'm working on, and I'm ready to tell you what it is. Unfortunately, I don't think that would be the right thing to do at this point in time, so I'm just going to keep teasing you. But I will tell you this. The thing that I'm working on seems to be going well, and whether it works out or not, it's going to be an episode. I'm recording every step of the way, and I think it's going to be a really cool insight into how some things happen or don't happen, which is still something happening, just less successfully. So I'm really excited to share all of that with y'all as soon as I can, and I'm going to keep teasing you until I'm able to. So looking forward to that. But that's really all I have to say here. So make sure that you hit subscribe. Don't miss any episodes. Make sure you're following along on the socials at Rossifari, on TikTok at Rossifari Pod. There's a Patreon. If you want to drop some support, you can do so for as little as $3 a month. Patreon.com/Rossifari. And with all that said, let's get to it. All right, so we're going to start off this week with a headline story, and honestly, I don't know how long it's going to go, so when it's done, there may or may not be more zoo news, probably, at least some. But we're going to be talking about Sloth World again. So in case you live under a rock and you haven't seen the video I posted or any of the other videos and posts celebrating this, Sloth World, which we talked about for the whole of last week's episode, no longer exists. It has been closed down. It never actually opened, but it will no longer be opening. The socials are gone. The website is gone. The facility is gone. The Sloth Institute and the Sloth Conservation Foundation worked very hard partnering with traditional media, with influencers. They came on the podcast twice and just did everything they could to get the word out about this, and it worked. Sloth World is gone. Now, the 13 sloths that were still alive were transferred to the Central Florida Zoo and added to the AZA Sloth SSP, with the plan, or hope really, being to find them all new permanent good homes. And actually, it was kind of interesting because a couple different people reached out to me on Thursday night last week, right before the episode came out. And they told me this was happening, but it wasn't public knowledge yet. And I was like, oh, that puts me in a weird place because I'm about to release an episode about this and asking people what they can do, or telling people what they can do, really, and asking them to do it. But then I realized that even with that decision made, every voice used would matter. And it's also a good opportunity to get to do the thing. And also, I didn't have the time or energy to record a whole brand new episode. So all of those things combined to lead me to still put the episode out there. And I'm so glad I did because so many people showed out. And we'll talk about that more in a little bit. So the sloths got to the Central Florida Zoo. It was 13 sloths that got there. They were put into quarantine, and they immediately let people know that one of the little ones, named Bandit, was in pretty terrible condition. And despite their best efforts, after a couple of days, Bandit passed away, but the other 12 seemed to be in stable condition and well on the road to recovery. So you may remember that there was kind of this rallying cry around the fact that there were 31 dead sloths. Well, even though the place is now shut down, we have to raise that number to 32. And actually, in fact, it's much more than that because, well, of course it is. The confirmed death toll at Sloth World is now up to 53 sloths, and the records still don't fully match, meaning there are animals that are still unaccounted for. And that, of course, most likely means those other animals are dead. And this is not only an incredible tragedy, but it also leads to a lot of questions. For starters, the last batch of sloths that we know were imported came in March of this year. Well after the first 31 deaths were recorded, and presumably after more of the 53 or so deaths happened, probably. And actually, from the various stories that I've read as I looked into this, it seems like there might be paperwork for as many as 73 sloths, 12 of which we still know are alive. So not sure if that will be the final number, but whatever it is, it's crazy. And it probably means more bad news is on the way because the math ain't mathin'. But yeah, so that leads to the question of how was Sloth World still allowed to import sloths even after both the federal and state governments knew so many sloths had died? Like, it kept on happening. They didn't just bring in 73 sloths, right? They would bring in sloths. The sloths would die. They would replace said sloths with more sloths who would then die. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the fact that these imports were allowed time and again is such a failure. I don't know exactly if it's a failure of the laws that are on the books, or if it's a failure of enforcement, or both, or what. But it's not a happy story. And of course, that then leads to the question of what happens next. The Sloth Conservation Foundation and Sloth Institute are now working with lawmakers to push for a complete ban on the import of wild-caught sloths. They're also working with lawyers to try to ensure that the people responsible for this are held accountable. And I want to be super clear. I don't know the animal cruelty laws at any level, but I'm hoping there's something at the federal, state, or local level that can hold the owner and importer of these sloths accountable. And if there isn't, maybe there will be some other law they violated, like the fact that the building they were using to house their animals wasn't supposed to be used to house animals. Maybe they could make it a thing like how Al Capone was arrested for tax evasion, or how OJ went to prison for, stealing some of his own memorabilia back from someone, and for absolutely nothing else that he might have done. Wink. So yeah, there's still a lot of work to be done here, but congrats to the teams at the Sloth Institute and the Sloth Conservation Foundation for really running with this. It was such an honor to be a small part of this effort, and I'm so proud of the petition signatures and reel sharing and TikTok sharing and general awareness the Rossifari community was able to add to this effort. It really did make a difference. Every time that you shared or talked to somebody about this made a difference. Every time one of you signed that petition that was out there on change.org, it made a difference. So to every single one of you that participated, thank you so much. And for those of you that didn't get involved in that way, thank you for listening and caring and reaching out and sharing your anger, because honestly, hearing from so many people about this definitely let me know that I was on the right track and that you guys want me talking about this kind of stuff and involved in this kind of stuff. It's a little scary being a completely independent thing to go after a facility or something like that. But when I got my whole team behind me, that's not scary at all. So thank you very much, everyone who even just gave a like or a share or whatever. Thank you. Now, I do want to end this with a kind of cute story. So we're going to go back to the Central Florida Zoo for a minute, and they have been doing amazing daily updates on social media about their sloths, which I just love to see. Also, I have to give them props because they haven't pooped on Sloth World at all. They talked about it as a donation of sloths, which I guess is technically true, but gee, that was very kind. That was very kind. And all they've been talking about is what they're doing to help the sloths. They haven't been attacking anyone. And I think that's kind of cool. But so their latest update talked about how the most recent delivery of supplies for the sloths included vaccines and poop. The veterinary team at the Los Angeles Zoo sent a box of fresh sloth poop from their healthy sloths for what's known as a fecal microbiota transplant. And yes, that's exactly what it sounds like. You regulate the gut health of a sloth by introducing microbes from a healthy sloth donor. And just to be clear, the delivery method is not as gross as some of y'all might be thinking. The fecal samples are processed and then delivered to the patient's digestive system so those bacteria can repopulate the gut. It's not like they're actually just straight up eating poop. They're eating processed poop, but, whatever. Anyway, and this is something that truly can help sloths with GI issues to recover effectively. So I love that these stories are being shared. I love that the Central Florida Zoo and the AZA SSP and just so many people are involved in these efforts. It's so cool to see. But yeah, at the end of the day, what it all comes down to is y'all just got a sloth poop story. And that brings us to our births for the week. And we're going to start off with an announcement from the Bronx Zoo. Their herd of Paré-David's deer recently welcomed 5 new fawns, which is absolutely incredible. So yeah, each deer has gotten a neonatal examination where sex is determined, and a full examination is done, which includes hooves, mouth, and ears, check vitals, taking blood samples, weights, all that kind of stuff. And they get vaccines administered. And of course, this is really an incredible thing because Paré-David's deer were actually saved from extinction through well-managed programs in both accredited zoos and private deer parks. And the Bronx Zoo actually helped to pioneer breeding and husbandry practices for this species. So congrats to the Bronx Zoo on that one. And then also congrats to our friends at Wildlife World Zoo. There are definitely some babies at the zoo right now, including a baby black-backed jackal. Now, I have been at the zoo when they had baby black-backed jackals before, and oh my gosh, it is one of the most adorable canids you will ever see. Those puppies are incredible. And they also have 2 baby jaguar cubs at the zoo. I've seen one there before, yeah. So, wow, between their pygmy hippo that is growing up so quickly and these new babies, there's a whole lot going on at Wildlife World Zoo. And our friends at Zoo Atlanta are celebrating a first, the first ever birth of a southern 3-banded armadillo pup at the zoo, who was born to first-time parents Persephone and Finnegan back in March. Absolutely doing a great job. Was the size of a clementine at birth, but is now up to the size of a baseball. Interestingly, baby armadillos are rarely seen in the wild because their families keep them very, very hidden. And so because of that, it's actually something that a whole lot of zoogoers are interested in, especially people who live in the area where armadillos, frequent and live and stuff. So yeah, very cool opportunity to see a baby armadillo at Zoo Atlanta. The Kansas City Zoo and Aquarium has announced the birth of 3 bat-eared fox kits to Mom Jane and Dad Chewy. This is awesome. So the zoo is currently having a naming contest for them, and the various groupings that are being considered are Luke, Vader, and Leia, which is a Star Wars theme, obviously, Serrano, Ghost, and Belle, which are peppers, Chief, Royal, and Current, which is all Kansas City-related stuff, Ferris, Cameron, and Sloan from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and Shadow, Storm, and Aurora, which are all atmospheric themes. So I really, especially since Dad is Chewy, I really like the Star Wars one, but the Ferris Bueller Day Off one is pretty cool too. So yeah, anyway, just thought all of that was very, very interesting, and they were very cute names, and I thought it was worth mentioning. And that brings us to our deaths for the week. And we're going to start off by saying goodbye to Belle, the female Fusa at the Cleveland Metroparks Zoo, who passed away at the age of 24. As she aged, some natural age-related problems started showing up, and the team worked well to make sure she was comfortable and happy. But unfortunately, her conditions declined, and so Belle was humanely euthanized just due to her advanced age and reduced quality of life. She was at the zoo for 14 years and was actually one of the oldest Fuchsias in the AZA, which just shows how amazing her care was. So yeah, it's going to be interesting because they're not bringing in another fossa. And yes, I've now used all 3 of those. Instead, they're going to make it the home of their colobus monkeys. So sad to see that the time of the Foosh is ending at Cleveland Metroparks Zoo. But what an amazing life Belle had there. And our friends at the Calgary Zoo have said goodbye to their female wild boar named Fern. And again, it's the same story we hear so often. Fern was an old boar, and at the end of her life, a lot of things just started to happen. Severe osteoarthritis in multiple joints, significant tooth wear and loss, decaying kidney function, and cystic changes in the uterus were just some of those things. And when they got too bad, the team decided to euthanize. She was nearly 13 years of age, 1 week shy of her birthday, and that's a really good lifespan for a boar in human care. So yeah, it's just another sad loss, and just it's so cool to me that the Calgary Zoo shared this, because boars don't always get the most attention, whether that's because they're just not well known or they're maybe not as traditionally beautiful as some species. But I love that this gorgeous animal that had this amazing impact on so many people at the zoo got recognition publicly. It's very cool. And the Columbus Zoo and Aquarium has said goodbye to Talawi, a male koala who was known for being incredibly gentle and curious. He was just a really amazing, very chill koala. I actually had the chance to meet him when I was at the zoo recently. And one thing that was so special about him was just the way that he interacted with his keepers. He was a very human-focused koala and very loving. Unfortunately, Talawi was diagnosed with an aggressive form of lymphoid neoplasia that affects koalas both in the wild and in professional care. And unfortunately, this led to an enlargement of his lymph node, and the disease, no matter how aggressively you treat it, progresses very quickly. And because of that, the decision was made to euthanize him. This was a very challenging loss for a team that was very close to this animal. Interestingly, this is a cancer that in koalas can transfer from parent to offspring. It's been linked to high levels of koala retrovirus, and it can actually lay dormant in koalas for years. And so there's a lot of research going on into why this is a thing and why some koalas develop cancer from it while others do not. And this is actually one of the biggest threats to koala health right now. And so, at the end of the day, it's good to know that he's going to be studied and other cases are going to be studied. And every case helps researchers and care teams learn more about the health challenges facing koalas. So he left an amazing legacy and he's not done leaving it yet. But goodbye, Talawi. And that brings us to the rest of our zoo news for the week. And it starts with some controversy. So when I say cub petting, especially big cat cub petting, you probably respond with thinking I'm going to talk about a roadside zoo. But in fact, this has become quite the controversy that is facing Zoo Knoxville right now, which is obviously an AZA-accredited facility. And as you know, is a facility that I visit and have on the podcast and love and support and all the things. But recently, a couple of people, including State Senator Richard Briggs in Tennessee, posted some videos and photos where they got to meet the lion cub that is currently at the zoo. And you may remember that I mentioned that I got to see the lion cub when I was at the zoo, and I was amazed at how cute this cub was. But I was very careful to say that I saw him through a window. And that was important because A, it was true, and B, because of the Big Cat Safety Act, which makes it problematic to do cub petting, basically illegal as far as I understand it. But the senator and a few other people apparently got to go in and sit on the ground with this lion cub. And the lion cub was crawling all over them. One of them said that they can now brag to their friends that they got bit by a lion because it gently nibbled their fingers. And these people posted this stuff on public social media. And it has not gone over well, as you can imagine. So I'm really curious to see what comes of this. So Zoo Knoxville did respond to some local press reaching out and asking about this, and they said that they are operating within federal law. But many animal advocates have come out and complained about this and are encouraging people to reach out to the ACA and complain directly to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, which is the entity entrusted with the enforcement of the Big Cat Public Safety Act. So, yeah, I don't know. My understanding of this is that there's really no wiggle room in the Big Cat Public Safety Act, that unless you work specifically with the animals and are hand rearing and stuff, that you cannot do what these people did. And like I said, when I got to go back and see the cub, it was very much just through a window, and nobody was like, hey, you want to go in and play with this lion? Because that's not how that works. So the fact that these pictures are out there and just went public, and the fact that Zoo Knoxville is currently defending it, saying that they are operating within federal law, is challenging for me. Yeah, we're going to go with challenging. And, even if it is technically within the law, it's not a good look, right? I mean, I constantly on this podcast talk about accredited zoos versus places like Tiger King. And the number one thing I talk about is cub petting. There's a lot more, but that's the one where it's like, oh, if you see this happening, it is not a good zoo. I don't know what to do with this. I love Zoo Knoxville. I really do. I'm going to see what the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service says about this. I know that they are aware. I know that it's being investigated. I'm going to see what the AZA has to say about this. I can't imagine that cub petting is allowed in AZA accreditation standards. I know that it's not in the ZAA. I haven't read anything about that in ACA, but my assumption is that's a big no. And so, yeah, I'm curious to see what the fallout is from this and if it becomes a bigger deal or if it just kind of fades into the background. But I got to tell y'all, I am not a fan of seeing cub petting. So while I do love Zoo Knoxville, and I know I have listeners at Zoo Knoxville, and I love you guys. I love, all of the collaboration that we've done and all of the time I've spent at your zoo. I love it. But this feels like a big misstep to me. So I'll be curious to see where this goes. I'll update y'all as I see more about it. But yeah, not loving this one, y'all. Not loving this one. Let me know what you guys think. I'm really curious. Two quick fun stories out of Henry Vilas Zoo. First of all, the zoo is scheduled to be completely fossil fuel free by 2040. And that is a really cool, really challenging initiative. And I'm really excited that they are going for it. And then on a more personal note, Bandit, the red panda, who is my spirit panda, and who had been at Columbus before going there, has gotten a breeding wreck and is going to be moving to a different facility. Actually has moved to a different facility, I believe, by this point. And they did a really good farewell for Bandit, which I thought was so stinking cute. They had people signing cards and going there to say goodbye. And it turns out that Bandit did not just impact me, but has been quite the beloved animal at his second zoo. So as he moves on to his third zoo, I'm really excited to see him continue to build his fan base and grow. But it was really amazing to me seeing an animal that I've loved so much for so long get such an amazing goodbye. And while we're doing two stories from different zoos, we'll also talk about the Akron Zoo, our good friends at Akron. They set a new single-day attendance record this year with approximately 7,400 guests. And that just blows my mind. That's so many guests. I think that is just so cool for them. And, they're not the largest zoo. And so that's a lot of people. And it really shows that all of the amazing stuff the zoo is doing just, is having a huge impact on the people in Akron. And now they're also announcing that their newly renovated and updated Legends of the Wild area will be opening soon. And a bunch of animals will be making a debut in, it is May now, so later in May, including axolotls, white-faced sakis, cotton-top tamarins, sun conures, green arisaries, and golden lion tamarins. So it's going to be really exciting at the Akron Zoo. A bunch of really cool, really neat, diverse species. I can personally attest that people lose their minds for axolotls, and they're probably the least interesting animal there, in my humble opinion. So congrats to Akron Zoo for some very cool news. And then last but not least in the Zoo News section this week, the previous week was Volunteer Appreciation Week. And a whole lot of zoos and aquariums did a bunch of different stuff for their volunteers. Anything from social media posts to thank you parties to our friends at the Lehigh Valley Zoo, who got... This is so cool. So they got their team Lehigh Valley Zoo fanny packs, drinklets, some artwork, and Blue Lizard sunscreen, which is the sunscreen that I've started using because it's from Australia and is named Blue Lizard. So, yeah. And they just got them this little, thank you package. And I'm sure the stuff was, donated, and that's just the coolest thing. I love it so much. Volunteers do so much work at zoos and oftentimes don't get the most, love and attention. So it's very cool to see any and all of that for Volunteer Appreciation Week. And it's extra super cool to see some smaller facilities like Lehigh Valley Zoo going out big for their team. Yay.
Animal, animal, animal holidays. Animal, animal, animal holidays.
And yet another tragedy coming from Sloth World is that I keep having to talk about it and then can't do things like conservation news and other news because of the timing of it all. So, people should stop importing and killing sloths, and then you might get to hear more zoo news stories. But it is May, and May is National Duckling Month, National Lake Cleanup Month, and No Mow May. Then the first is National Purebred Dog Day and Save the Rhino Day. The second is World Tuna Day and Salamander Saturday. The third is Wild Koala Day, Leopard Day, and starts Amphibian Week. The fifth is Happy Bears Day and Cinco de Rhino. And those are your animal holidays for the week. And there you have it. Rossifari Zoo news with too much focus on Sloth World these last couple weeks. It's got to be there, but it keeps bringing me down. So I hope that we are near the end of that. And, before I move away from animal holidays, although we just moved away from animal holidays, I did want to remind you all that two of my favorite animal holidays are coming up this month. May 9th is World Binturong Day. And then May 21st is Tree Kangaroo Day. And you know what that means. Pretty soon, we're going to be launching the Crunchathon 2026 on the Safe Tree Kangaroo page. So make sure you're following along on socials at Tree Kangaroo Safe. Oh, and maybe keep your eye open for a fundraiser that's going to be happening. That's going to be very, very exciting. Maybe even pictures from John Rossi himself. Oh, I don't know. It's going to be exciting. Make sure you're following my socials, those socials, all the socials for information about that. All right, so before we get going, I do want to take a moment to thank my patrons, especially my Red Panda level patrons, Dr. Laura Schenk, Dr. Stephen Williamson, Barbara Bennett, Jenny Owens, Melissa Reed, Carrie Kirkpatrick, John Lewis, who is also here for stickers, Kevin Williams, and Cormac McMuffin. Meow. And I'd also like to say thank you to everyone who sent me stories this week, including Anya Keene, Colleen Linehan, Kim Cooley-Croninger, Carrie Kirkpatrick, Kevin Williams, Emily Rockbuck, Dr. Natalie Taco, Taran Hanton, Dr. Laura Schenk, Ren Howell, Jacob Zinn, Holly Page, Nikki Morley, Ethan Ferguson, Dr. Zoe Rossi, Barbara Bennett, Ken Tryon, Marianne Rossi, and Yoshioka. Ali Malensky, Kay Malensky. The Malenskys. April Taylor, Daniel Cohen, Kelly Palawi, Rowena White, Zach Poe, Crystal Chapman, Jamie Chavez, Kristen Khalil, Maddie Pats, Jennifer Zune, Becca Robinson, Strix. I won't forget you, Strix, because Strix sends me stuff and I forgot. Michael Sebastian, Melissa Kenny, Rick Schwartz, Sierra Bowen, Sam Evans, Stephen Rossi, Nicole Lee, and my good friend Carolyn, who you can find online at Carson the Red Panda. If you're not following, what are you even doing with your life? We'll be back on Tuesday with a brand new interview episode. But until then, you know it's coming. You know it's coming. Wait for it. Wait for it. The words music credits backwards are, wait for it some more. Steider Kiswen. The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray.
You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo.
All of the amazing stuff that the zoo has been doing really there is just the R is M